The photo fell from his jacket pocket like a death sentence. It wasn't just any photo. It was one of those vintage Polaroids, the kind that develops slowly before your eyes, revealing its secrets one shade at a time. I remember standing there, my fingers trembling as I picked it up from our bedroom floor. At first, I couldn't make sense of what I was seeing. Then it hit me like a freight train. Two people, intertwined, passionate, betrayal captured in 3-4 inches of glossy paper. I recognized my husband David immediately. The curve of his shoulders, the birthmark on his back that I'd traced with my fingers countless times over our 7 years together. But the woman, I could only see her hair cascading down, her face turned away from the camera in what I'd later realize was calculated caution. Something about her seemed hauntingly familiar. I stood frozen in our master bedroom, the one we'd painted together last spring, arguing playfully about whether seascape blue or ocean mist would better match our bedding. Now the walls seemed to close in, suffocating me with their cheerful color that mocked everything I thought I knew about my life. "Sarah! I'm home early!" David's voice echoed from downstairs, followed by the familiar sound of his keys hitting the ceramic bowl I'd made in that pottery class he'd gifted me for my 30th birthday. The birthday he'd forgotten until his mother reminded him. I slipped the photo into my pocket and took 3 deep breaths. I'd always prided myself on being rational, composed, the mediator in my family, the one who never lost control. But something primitive was awakening inside me, something that wanted to scream until my throat was raw. Instead, I applied fresh lipstick and went downstairs. "Hey you," he smiled, that dimple appearing in his left cheek, the one that first made me fall for him at my best friend's wedding. Was he always this good an actor? "I was thinking we could order in tonight. Maybe that Thai place you love?" I nodded, studying his face for cracks in the performance, for some hint that he was living a double life. "Sounds perfect." I matched his casual tone, though my heart was hammering so loudly I was certain he could hear it. That night, I watched him sleep, the rhythmic rise and fall of his chest, his face peaceful, unburdened by guilt. How could he sleep so soundly while lying next to someone he'd betrayed so completely? I didn't confront him. Not yet. Something told me there was more to uncover, that this wasn't just about a random affair. The woman's silhouette haunted me. There was something so familiar about the curve of her neck, the shade of her hair. Over the next 3 weeks, I became someone I didn't recognize, checking his phone while he showered, following him during his late meetings, scrutinizing credit card statements for hotels, restaurants, gifts not given to me. I discovered he'd purchased a second phone, found receipts for jewelry I'd never received, noticed perfume that wasn't mine lingering on his shirts. But most disturbing were the text messages I finally accessed after figuring out his password. Our anniversary date, the irony not lost on me. They revealed an intimacy beyond the physical. Inside jokes, morning messages, plans for the future. This wasn't just sex. This was an emotional affair, possibly something deeper than what he had with me. The messages never mentioned her name, just my love, or sometimes S. The messages referenced shared childhood memories, which struck me as odd. David hadn't grown up here. He'd moved to Boston for college and stayed. His childhood friends were all back in Seattle. Then came the text that shattered everything. "Can't wait for family dinner Sunday. Acting normal around her gets harder every time." Family dinner. My family dinner. The monthly gathering at my parents' house that David had been attending for years. The mistress wasn't just someone I knew. She was family. The realization hit me like ice water through my veins. I dropped the phone, my mind racing through possibilities. My cousin Emma? My aunt Jennifer? Recently divorced? My brother's new wife? I thought I knew pain before, but this was different. This was betrayal wrapped in betrayal, served on the plate of my family table. That night, I lay awake planning, calculating, preparing. Because if there's one thing I learned growing up in a family of 4 siblings, you don't just get mad, you get even. Family Sunday dinner arrived with painful slowness. I spent the morning in the bathroom, vomiting from anxiety, then meticulously applying makeup to hide the dark circles under my eyes. David seemed almost giddy as he changed shirts 3 times, finally settling on the blue button-down I'd given him for Christmas. "You look beautiful," he said, kissing my cheek as we pulled into my parents' driveway. I wondered if he kissed her the same way, casually, like an afterthought. My mother greeted us at the door, enveloping me in her signature gardenia-scented hug. "Sarah, honey, and David, come in, come in. Everyone's already here." Everyone. The word echoed in my head like a warning bell. I scanned the living room, looking for signs. A lingering glance, a secret smile. Any clue that would reveal who was sleeping with my husband. My older brother Tom and his wife Melissa sat on the couch, their twin toddlers playing at their feet. My father was in his recliner, arguing politics with my uncle. My younger brother Michael was setting the table with his fiancée. And then there was my baby sister, Lily, 25 to my 32. Always the family favorite with her artistic talent and carefree spirit. She'd come back from Paris 3 months ago after finishing her art fellowship. 3 months. Right when David started having more late meetings. She hugged me tightly. "Sarah, I missed you. We need to catch up properly." I hugged her back mechanically, watching over her shoulder as David entered the room. His eyes flickered to her for just a millisecond too long. And I knew. The sister I'd protected from bullies. The sister whose college application essays I'd helped perfect. The sister I'd lent money to when she was struggling in Europe. The sister I'd always cheered for, even when she overshadowed me. Throughout dinner, I watched them. The careful distance they maintained. The way they avoided direct conversation. The perfected act of casual disinterest. But I caught the secret language now. The slight flush on Lily's cheeks when David reached across the table for the salt. The way his finger subtly touched her wrist when passing the bread basket. "Sarah, you're quiet tonight," my mother observed, passing me another helping of pot roast I couldn't stomach. "Is everything okay with the new promotion?" "Everything's fine," I lied, feeling David's hand squeeze my knee under the table. A gesture that once brought comfort, now only disgust. "Just tired from work," Lily jumped in. "Sarah's always working too hard. Remember how she missed her own graduation party because she was finishing that project?" She laughed, tossing her hair I now recognized from the photo. Always the responsible one. The responsible one. While she was the fun one, the creative one, the one everyone doted on. And now, apparently, the one who took what was mine because she wanted it. After dinner, I excused myself to the bathroom and saw Lily's purse on the counter. A moment of invasion of privacy or a necessary reconnaissance mission. I chose the latter, quickly finding her phone and opening it with the passcode she'd used since high school, our childhood dog's birthday. There they were, hundreds of messages with David. Photos that made me physically ill. Plans and promises. "I've never felt this way before," David had written. "It's like you understand parts of me Sarah never could. We belong together," my sister had replied. "But we need to be careful until we figure out how to tell her. She's so sensitive. You know how she gets." How I get. Like I was some emotional liability they needed to manage? The final blow was a message from just yesterday. What if we just ran away together? Start fresh somewhere? Sarah would move on eventually. She's always been strong that way. Strong. They were planning to devastate me and justifying it by calling me strong. I took photos of their conversations, my hands shaking so badly I had to steady them against the sink. I heard a soft knock on the door. "Sarah? You okay in there?" Lily's voice, concerned and gentle. The voice of someone who had sat in my bedroom and cried on my shoulder when her first boyfriend cheated on her. The voice of someone who'd sworn that sisters were forever, that blood was thicker than anything. "Be right out," I called, amazed at how normal my voice sounded while my insides were being shredded. When I emerged, she hugged me. Actually, hugged me. "You really do look tired, sis. You should take a vacation or something." I looked into her eyes so similar to my own, and saw no guilt, no shame, just the practiced concern of someone who'd perfected her performance. On the drive home, David asked if I wanted to stop for ice cream, a Sunday tradition. I declined, pleading a headache. He turned on the radio to fill the silence, humming along to some pop song about everlasting love. I gave everything to them, I whispered to myself as I stared out the window at passing streetlights, and they discarded me like nothing. That night, while David slept, I sat in our home office and made a list, not of what I'd lost, but of what I was going to take back. My dignity, my power, my life. And if I was going to be called strong, then strong is exactly what they would get. Most people think revenge is born from hot, impulsive anger, a swift reaction to being wronged. They're wrong. True revenge is cold, methodical, and patient. It's designed not just to hurt, but to teach. And I was about to become the best teacher my husband and sister had ever had. I spent the next 2 weeks living a double life of my own. During the day, I was Sarah the wife, cooking David's favorite meals, listening to his stories about work, even initiating intimacy that left me feeling hollow but maintained my cover. At night, while he slept, I was Sarah the strategist, planning, gathering, securing. First, I needed to understand the full scope of their betrayal. I installed a tracking app on David's phone during dinner one night while he was in the shower. I placed a small recording device in his car, disguised as an air freshener. I even hired a private investigator, paid for in cash from a separate account David knew nothing about. What I discovered was worse than I imagined. Their affair hadn't started 3 months ago. It had started over a year ago, during a period when I was caring for my mother after her surgery. David had comforted Lily during that stressful time. The Paris Fellowship wasn't even real. My parents had helped fund her living expenses, but she'd actually been living with David in a rented apartment across town whenever I traveled for work. The deception was breathtaking in its complexity. The people I trusted most had created an elaborate fiction around me, gaslighting me at every turn. When I'd sensed something was off and asked David about it, he'd suggested I see a therapist for my paranoia. When I'd mentioned to Lily that David seemed distant, she'd advised me to give him space and focus on yourself for a while. All this time, they'd been manipulating me, making me doubt my own instincts. But here's what they didn't know. I'd always been methodical. While David saw me as emotional and Lily thought me naive, they forgot I was the one who managed our investments. who negotiated our mortgage, who carefully planned every aspect of our shared life. And I had been gathering evidence for years, not because I suspected anything, but because I'm organized. Every financial document, every legal paper, every record of our life together, all digitized, all backed up, all accessible. Now those organizational skills served a new purpose. I discovered David had been funneling money from our joint account into a separate one, presumably for their future together. Fortunately, I'd maintained my own separate accounts he knew nothing about, and I quietly moved my inheritance there, along with half of our joint savings. Not stealing, just securing what was rightfully mine before he could take it. I consulted with a divorce attorney, one from a different city who wouldn't leak information to anyone in our social circle. I laid out everything: the affair, the financial irregularities, the gaslighting. She listened impassively, then outlined a strategy that would protect me legally and financially. What about emotionally? I asked her. She looked at me over her glasses. That's not my department, but from experience, nothing heals a broken heart like knowing you've protected yourself from further harm. I wasn't interested in just protection. I wanted justice. So I methodically built my case, downloading their text messages, documenting their meetings, collecting hotel receipts and gift purchases. I archived emails they'd exchanged using accounts they thought were secret. I even found the rental agreement for their love nest, signed by both of them. But the most valuable intelligence came from an unexpected source: my mother. During a casual lunch, she mentioned how excited she was about Lily's art exhibition the following month. It's such a big opportunity. Even your father is impressed, and you know how he feels about her impractical career choice. I nodded, sipping my iced tea. That's great. Where is it again? The Hartman Gallery. David's been so helpful, using his connections from that client of his to get her foot in the door. Such a supportive brother-in-law. I froze. David's client, Mitchell Hartman, owned the gallery. The same client whose account David had been desperately trying to secure for the past year. The one that would guarantee his partnership at the firm. Pieces clicked into place. Lily wasn't just sleeping with my husband. She was using him for career advancement. And David wasn't just betraying me with my sister. He was risking his professional ethics by mixing business with pleasure. This exhibition wasn't just important to Lily. It was her big break, the validation she'd been seeking from our father her entire life. And for David, securing the Hartman account meant partnership, prestige, the success he'd been chasing since we met. That night, I made a call to an old college friend who now worked as an arts reporter for the Boston Chronicle. We'd stayed in touch over the years, meeting for coffee every few months. I'd attended her wedding. She'd sent flowers when my grandmother died. Rebecca, it's Sarah. I have a story you might be interested in. I didn't tell her everything, just that I had evidence of ethical impropriety involving the Hartman Gallery's upcoming exhibition. A conflict of interest that compromised the integrity of both the gallery and the artist being featured. Send me what you have, she said. Professional curiosity piqued. If there's a story, I'll run it. I scheduled the email to send to her the morning of the family dinner I was hosting the following Sunday. The dinner to which I'd invited both our families to celebrate David's upcoming partnership announcement. A dinner that would now serve a very different purpose. The final piece fell into place when I received a call from the private investigator. Mrs. Campbell, I've confirmed the information you requested. They're meeting tomorrow at the rental property. Based on their previous pattern, they'll be there from approximately 2 p.m. until 5 p.m. Perfect timing. David thought I'd be at a day-long work retreat. Lily believed I was accompanying our mother to a medical appointment. Instead, I would be setting the stage for the final act. As I hung up the phone, I felt a strange calm wash over me. Not happiness. I doubted I'd feel that again for a long time. But something like power. The power that comes from knowing you're 10 steps ahead of those who thought you were 10 steps behind. They'd been playing chess while thinking I was playing checkers. But the game wasn't over yet. Sunday arrived warm and bright, the kind of perfect early summer day that would have once made me happy. I'd spent the morning preparing an elaborate meal. David's favorite roast beef, Lily's preferred lemon tart for dessert, my mother's cherished family recipes. The dining room table was set with our wedding china and crystal glasses that caught the light and scattered tiny rainbows across the white tablecloth. Everything looked perfect. A tableau of family harmony about to be shattered. My parents arrived first. My father bringing the expensive wine he'd been saving for a special occasion. My mother fussing over the flowers I'd arranged. My brother and his wife came next, apologizing for being a few minutes late. David was in the kitchen, playing the role of helpful husband, unaware that in 24 hours the locks would be changed. Lily arrived last, offering me a sisterly hug that made my skin crawl. She'd worn a new dress, one I later recognized from receipts I'd found in David's email. She'd brought artisanal chocolates from that boutique shop we'd discovered together years ago on a sister's weekend. "You look amazing," she gushed, her eyes flickering briefly to David. "This is so nice of you to put together." If only she knew. We gathered around the table, glasses raised in a toast that David led. "To family," he said, his voice warm with fake sincerity. "And to new beginnings." New beginnings indeed. The meal progressed with practiced normalcy, compliments on the food, discussions about politics, gentle teasing between siblings. I played my part flawlessly, laughing at the right moments, refilling wine glasses, passing dishes, all while the tablet connected to our home entertainment system sat innocuously on the sideboard, ready with its cued presentation. As dessert was served, I stood, tapping my glass with a spoon. "I want to thank everyone for coming today," I began, my voice steady despite my racing heart. "As you know, we're here to celebrate David's hard work and the partnership he's been working toward." David beamed, reaching for my hand across the table. I allowed the contact, one last time. "But before we toast to future success, I thought it would be nice to look back on the journey that brought us here. I've put together a little slideshow." I pressed the remote control, and the large television on the dining room wall flickered to life. It started innocuously enough. Photos of David and me at our wedding, family gatherings, holiday celebrations. My mother made appreciative noises. My father nodded approvingly. Then the tone shifted. "This past year has been particularly illuminating," I said, as the screen displayed the first text message between David and Lily, the one where they first discussed their attraction while I was caring for our mother. The room went silent. Next came photos from the private investigator. David and Lily entering their secret apartment, embracing on the street when they thought no one was watching. Hotel receipts. Bank statements showing money transferred into their secret account. "Sarah, what is this?" David said, his voice strangled, face draining of color. I ignored him, continuing my narration. "I've also learned a great deal about business ethics, particularly regarding the upcoming exhibition at the Hartman Gallery." Now it was Lily's turn to panic. "Sarah, stop this. You don't understand." "I understand perfectly," I cut her off, my voice still eerily calm. "I understand that while I was building a life with my husband and supporting my sister, you two were destroying everything I cared about." The screen now showed an email I'd sent last night to Mitchell Hartman himself, detailing how his gallery was being used in an unethical quid pro quo arrangement. His reply: "This exhibition is cancelled effective immediately. My association with both parties is terminated." Lily made a choking sound. Her big break, gone. Next came an email to David's firm, with evidence of how he'd compromised client relationships for personal benefit. The partner's response was brief but devastating. "We need to discuss your future with the firm. Meeting scheduled for Monday, 9 a.m. David stood up, knocking over his wine glass. "You had no right." "I had every right." I finally raised my voice, years of controlled emotions breaking through. "You slept with my sister in my bed. You planned to leave me after taking half of everything I worked for. You made me think I was crazy when I sensed something was wrong." My mother had her hands over her mouth, tears streaming down her face. My father sat rigid with shock. My brother looked ready to punch David. I turned to Lily. "And you. My own sister. The person I've protected and supported my entire life. Was it worth it? Was destroying me worth whatever sick thrill you got from taking what was mine?" For the first time, I saw real shame on her face. Not regret for being caught, but actual shame. "Sarah, I'm so sorry." "Save it." I cut her off. "Your art career in this city is over." That email went to every gallery owner in Boston. The story breaks in tomorrow's paper, though your names aren't mentioned. Yet. That depends on how you both handle what comes next. I placed a manila envelope on the table. "Divorce papers, David. My lawyer has already drafted them. Sign them, agree to my terms, and I won't press for a public investigation into your professional misconduct." I placed a second envelope beside it. "And Lily, this is a legal agreement relinquishing any claim to property in our parents' will, equivalent to what I spent supporting you through the years, with interest. Sign it, and I won't share the more intimate details of your betrayal with every mutual friend and professional contact you have." David lunged forward. "You vindictive—" My brother stood up, placing himself between us. "I wouldn't finish that sentence if I were you." My father finally found his voice. "Lily," he said, his tone more disappointed than I'd ever heard it. "Is this true? You and David?" She couldn't meet his eyes, which was answer enough. "I think," my mother said shakily, "that you two should leave this house immediately." In that moment, something shifted. My family rallied around me. The sister who had always been the favorite was now the outcast. The charming son-in-law was revealed as the fraud he was. As they gathered their things, I felt no triumph, no satisfaction, just a hollow vindication and the first fragile threads of liberation. I hadn't just exposed their betrayal, I'd reclaimed my power. Before they reached the door, I called out one last time. "You know what the saddest part is? I would have done anything for either of you. Anything. And you threw it all away for something built on lies." After they left, my family surrounded me with support I hadn't expected. My brother called his lawyer friend who specialized in divorce cases. My father promised financial support if I needed it. My mother just held me while I finally allowed myself to cry. The empire David and Lily had built on my pain had crumbled in 30 minutes of irrefutable evidence, and though I was wounded, I was still standing. They weren't. 1 year later, I stood on the balcony of my new apartment, watching the sunset paint the Boston skyline in shades of gold and pink. Behind me, the sound of laughter drifted from my living room where my parents, brother, and a few close friends were gathered to celebrate my promotion. The divorce had been finalized 6 months ago, quicker and cleaner than most, largely because David had no ground to stand on after the evidence I'd presented. He lost the partnership opportunity, though managed to keep his job after extensive damage control. Last I heard, he'd transferred to the Seattle office, as far from Boston as he could reasonably get. Lily had moved back to Paris, ostensibly to focus on her art, but really to escape the social fallout. She'd written me several lengthy apology letters that sat unopened in my desk drawer. Maybe someday I'd read them. Maybe not. My mother still spoke to her occasionally, but respected my need for distance. Some wounds might heal eventually, but others change you permanently. "Hey, successful lady." My friend Rebecca joined me on the balcony, handing me a glass of champagne. The same Rebecca who'd written the article exposing the gallery scandal, though she'd kept her promise to leave names out of it. "Penny, for your thoughts?" I smiled, clinking my glass against hers. "Just thinking about trajectories. How you think your life is heading in one direction, and then suddenly, you're on a completely different path," she finished for me. "Better or worse?" I considered the question honestly. Different. Harder in some ways, but more authentically mine. And that was the truth. The pain of betrayal hadn't magically disappeared. I still had moments where grief ambushed me. In grocery store aisles when I automatically reached for David's favorite cereal, or when I found old photos of Lily and me as children, arms around each other, faces bright with sisterly love. But those moments were less frequent now, diluted by new experiences, new achievements, new relationships based on honesty and respect. My therapist, yes, I finally got one, a real one. Not because someone was gaslighting me, but because I deserved support, said that trauma changes your brain chemistry. "You'll never be the same person you were before," she told me during one session. But different doesn't have to mean diminished. She was right. I wasn't diminished. I was tempered, stronger in the broken places. I'd kept the house in the divorce settlement but chose to sell it, unwilling to live surrounded by memories of betrayal. The new apartment was all mine, decorated exactly as I wanted, no compromises, no consideration for anyone else's taste or preferences. My relationship with my parents had deepened. The family dynamics had shifted. I was no longer the responsible but overlooked older daughter. My father, in particular, had shown a tenderness toward me I'd always craved, but never received when Lily was the family focal point. "Speech time," called my brother from inside, interrupting my reflections. "The woman of the hour needs to say a few words." I laughed, making my way back inside to the warm circle of people who'd proven their loyalty during my darkest hours. These were my people now, chosen family, tested friends, colleagues who respected me for my work rather than pitied me for my personal trauma. As I raised my glass to toast, I caught my reflection in the window, shoulders straight, eyes clear, face composed but genuinely smiling. Not the mask I'd worn during those final weeks of my marriage, but a true expression of hard-won peace. "Thank you all for being here," I began. "A year ago, I thought I was losing everything that mattered. I didn't realize I was actually finding what truly matters." Later, after everyone had gone and I was alone in my quiet apartment, I opened the balcony door again and let the cool night air wash over me. I thought about all that had happened. The betrayal, the pain, the rebuilding. Some might call what I did revenge. I preferred to think of it as justice, not just for me, but for anyone who had ever been made to feel invisible by the people who should have cherished them most. The thing about being betrayed by those closest to you is that it forces you to decide. Will you let it destroy you, or will you use it to discover your own strength? I chose strength. I chose myself. And in the quiet aftermath of destruction, I found something unexpected. The freedom to build a life that was completely, authentically mine. No compromise. No betrayal. No shadows. Some lessons cost everything to learn. But once learned, they can never be taken from you. Neither can your worth.